Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. Being read to you today by Freedom Sociology. Chapter 1. I accidentally vaporized my 3 algebra teacher. Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. Few reasons, because you think you might be one. My advice is, close this book right now. Believe whatever lie your mom or dad told you about the ghost and try to live your normal life. Being a half-blood is dangerous. It's scary. Most of the time, it gets you killed in painful, nasty ways. If you're a normal kid, reading this because you skip sexually great, read on. I envy you for being able to believe that none of this ever happened. But if you recognize yourself in these pages, you feel something stirring inside, stop reading immediately. You might be one of us. Want to know that it's only a matter of time before they think it too, and they'll come for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. My name is Percy Jackson. I'm 12 years old. Till a few months ago, I was a boarding student at the EMT Academy, a private school for troubled kids in upstate New York. Am I a troubled kid? Yeah, you could say that. It could start at any point in my short, miserable life to prove it. But things really started going bad last May in our 6th grade class took a field trip to Manhattan. 28 mental case kids and two teachers on a yellow school bus heading to the Metropolitan Museum to look at ancient Greek and Roman stuff. I know it sounds like bullshit. Most fancy field trips were, but Mr. Bruno, a Latin teacher, was leading the trip, so I had hopes. Mr. Bruno was this middle-aged guy in a motorized wheelchair. He had thinning hair and a scruffy beard, a frayed tweed jacket. He always smelled like coffee. You wouldn't think he'd be cool, but he told stories and jokes and let us play games in class. He also had this awesome collection of Roman honor weapons, so he was the only teacher whose class didn't put me to sleep. I hoped this trip would be okay. At least I hoped that for once I wouldn't get in trouble. Boy, was I wrong. See, bad things happen to me on field trips. Like at my 5th grade school, we went to Saratoga Battlefield and had this accident with a revolutionary volcano. I wasn't aiming for the school bus, but of course I got expelled anyways. Before that, in my 1st grade school, when we took a behind-the-scenes tour of the Rainbow Shark Film, sort of hit the wrong level on the catwalk and was last to commence and swim. And the time before that, well, you get the idea. This trip, I was determined to be good. All the way into the city, I put up with Nancy Barclay, freckly red-headed kleptomaniac girl, hitting my best friend Grover in the back of the head with chunks of peanut butter and ketchup sandwich. And ketchup and peanut butter and ketchup sandwich. Grover was an easy target. He was scrawny, he cried when he got frustrated, he must have been held back several grades because he was the only 6th grader with acne and the start of a wispy beard on his chin. On top of all that, he was crippled. He had a note excusing him from PE for the rest of his life because he had some kind of muscular disease in his legs. He walked funny, like every step hurt him, but don't let that fool you. You should have seen him run when it was enchilada day in the cafeteria. Anyway, Nancy Bobbitt was throwing Barbara's sandwich that stuck in his curly brown hair. She knew I couldn't do anything back to her because I was already on probation. The headmaster had threatened me with death by in-school suspension if anything bad, embarrassing, and even mildly entertaining happened on this trip. I'm going to kill her, I mumbled. Gold tried to calm me down. It's okay, I like peanut butter. He dotted another piece of Nancy's shit. I started to get up. The girl pulled me back to my seat. You're already on probation, he reminded me. You know you'll get blamed if anything happens. Listen back on it. I wish I'd decked Nancy Bobbitt right then and there. In-school suspension would have been nothing compared to what I was about to get myself into. Mr. Bruno led the museum tour. He rode up front in his wheelchair, guiding us through the big echoey galleries, past marble statues, The last cases full of real black and orange pottery. It blew my mind that stuff had survived for 2,000, 3,000 years. He gathered us around a 13-foot tall stone column with a big sphinx on the top and started telling us how it was a grave marker stele for a girl about our age. He told us about the carvings on the sides. I was trying to listen to what he had to say, because it was kind of interesting that everybody around me was talking, and every time I told them to shut up, the other teacher chaperone, Mrs. Dodge, would give me the evil eye. Mrs. Dodge was this little math teacher from Georgia who always wore a black leather jacket, even though she was 50 years old. She was demeaning us to ride a Harley right into her locker. She had come to Nancy halfway through the year, and her last math teacher had a nervous breakdown. From her first day, Mrs. Dodge loved Nancy Bobbitt, and figured I was devil spawn. She would point her crooked finger at me and say, "Now, honey, real sweet," and I knew I was going to get after-school detention for a month. One time, after feeding me with answered out of old maths book until midnight, I told Grover I didn't think Mrs. Dodge was human. He looked at me real serious and said, "You're absolutely right." Mr. Bruner kept talking about Greek funeral rites. Finally, Nancy Bobbitt snickered something about the naked guy on the ceiling, and I turned around and said, "Will you shut up?" It came out louder than I meant to. The whole group laughed. Mr. Bruner stopped his story. "Mr. Jackson," he said, "did you have a comment?" My face was totally red. I said, "No, sir." Mr. Bruner pointed to one of the pictures on the field. "Perhaps you'll tell us what this picture represents." I looked at the carving and felt a rush of relief. So I actually recognized it. That's Kronos eating his kids, right? "Yes," Mr. Bruno said, obviously not satisfied. "And he did this because—" "Well," I racked my brain to remember. "Kronos was the king god, and—" "God?" Mr. Bruno asked. "Titan," I corrected myself. "And he didn't trust his kids, who was a god, so Kronos ate them, right? But his wife hid baby Zeus and gave Kronos a rock to eat instead. Later, when Zeus grew up, he tricked his dad Kronos into barking up his brothers and sisters." "Ew," said one of the girls behind him. And so there was this big fight between the gods and the Titans that continued, and the gods won. Some snickers from the group. Behind me, Nancy Bobbitt mumbled to a friend, "Like we're going to use this in real life, like it's going to stay on our job application. Please explain why Connor says kids." "Why, Mr. Jackson?" Winner said to paraphrase Mrs. Bobbitt's question. "Does this matter in real life?" "Busted," Rowan muttered. "Shut up," Nancy hissed, her face even brighter red than her hair. At least Nancy got packed too. Mr. Bruno was the only one who ever caught her saying anything wrong. He had radar ears. I thought about his question and shrugged. "I don't know, sir." "I see." Mr. Bruno looked disappointed. "Well, half credit, Mr. Jackson. Zeus did indeed feed Cronus a mixture of mustard and wine, which made him disgorge his other 5 children, who, of course, being immortal gods, had been living and growing up completely undigested in the Titan's stomach. The gods defeated their father, sliced him to pieces with his own scythe, and scattered his remains in Tartarus, the darkest part of the world. And that happened not much time for lunch. Mrs. Dodge, will you lead us back outside?" The class drifted off, the girls holding the stomachs, the guys pushing each other around and acting like doofuses. Rover and I were about to follow when Mr. Bruno said, "Mr. Jackson." I knew that was coming. I told Rover to keep going, then I turned toward Mr. Bruno. "Sir?" Mr. Bruno had this look that wouldn't let you go. Tense brown eyes that could have been 1,000 years old, and I'd seen everything. "You must learn the answer to my question," Mr. Bruno told me. "About the Titans?" "About your life, and how you studied the fly type." "Oh, what you learned from me," he said, "is vitally important. I expect you to treat it as such. I will accept only the best from you, Percy Jackson." I wanted to get angry at this guy pushed me so hard. I mean, sure, it was kind of cool on tournament days, and he dressed up in a suit of Roman armor and shouted, What ho! And sound just. Sword point against rock to run to the board and name every Greek and Roman person who ever lived, and their mother, and what god they worshipped, but Mr. Bruno expected me to be as good as everybody else. Despite the fact that I have dyslexia and attention deficit disorder, and I've never made above a C minus in my life. No, he didn't expect me to be as good. He expected me to be better. And I just couldn't learn all those names and facts, much less spell them correctly. I remembered something about trying harder while Mr. Bruno took one long, sad look at the field like he'd been at this girl's funeral. The class gathered on the front steps of the museum where we could watch the foot traffic along Percy Avenue. Overhead, a huge storm was brewing with clouds blacker than I'd ever seen over the city. I figured maybe it was global warming or something, because the weather all across New York State had been weird since Christmas. We'd had massive snowstorms, flooding, wildfires, and lightning strikes. I wouldn't have been surprised if this was a hurricane flowing in. Nobody else seemed to notice. Some of the guys were poking picking those Lunchables crackers. Nancy Bobblehead was trying to fix something for my lady's face, and of course, Mrs. Dodge wasn't seeing a thing. Grover and I sat on the edge of the fence away from the others. We thought maybe if we did that, everybody wouldn't know we were from that school. The school for loser freaks who couldn't make it elsewhere. Detention? Grover asked. Nah, I said. Not for Bruno. I just wish him to lay off me sometimes. I mean, I'm not a genius. Grover didn't say anything for a while. Then, when I thought he was going to give me some deep philosophical comment to make me feel better, he said, "Can I have your apple?" I didn't have much of an appetite, so I let him take it. I watched the stream of cabs going down on the Fifth Avenue, and thought about my mom's apartment, only a little ways uptown from where we sat. I hadn't seen her since Christmas. I wanted so bad to jump in a taxi and head home. She'd hug me and be glad to see me, or she'd be disappointed too. She'd send me right back to Yancey. Remind me that I had to try harder, even if this was my sixth school in 6 years, and I was probably going to be kicked out again. I wouldn't be able to stand that sad look she'd give me. Mr. Bruno parked his wheelchair at the base of the handicap ramp. He ate celery while he read a paperback novel. The red umbrella stuck up from the back of his chair, making it look like a motorized cafe table. I was about to unwrap my sandwich when Nancy Bobblehead appeared in front of me with her ugly friends. I guess he'd gotten tired of stealing from the tourists and dumped her half-eaten lunch in Grover's lap. Oops, he grinned with her crooked teeth. His freckles were orange as if somebody had spray painted her face with liquid Fritos. I tried to stay cool. The school counselor had told me a million times not to try and get control of your temper, but I was so mad when my mind went blank. The waves roared in my ears. I don't remember touching her, but the next thing I knew, Nancy was sitting on a butt in the fountain screaming, "Percy, push me!" Mrs. Dodge was cheering right next to us. Some of the kids were whispering, "Did you see? It's water." Like it grabbed her. I didn't know what they were talking about. All I knew was that I was in trouble again. As soon as Mrs. Dodge was sure poor little Nancy was okay, promising to get her a new shirt at the museum gift shop, etc., etc. Mrs. Dodge turned on me. There was a triumphant fire in her eyes, and if I'd done something she'd been waiting for all semester. "Now, honey, I know," I grumbled, months away from workbooks. "That wasn't the right thing to say. Come with me," Mrs. Dodge said. "Wait," Will yelped. "It was me. I pushed her." I stared at him, stunned. I couldn't believe he was trying to cover for me. Mrs. Dodge scared Grover to death. He glared at him so hard his whiskers trembled. "I don't think so, Mr. Underwood," he said, "but you will stay here." Grover looked at me desperately. "It's okay, man," I told him. "Things are fine." "Honey," I, "Honey,"